This isn't my usual video, but it is something important that needs to be addressed. And please don't harass or send hate to anyone mentioned in the video. Before I get into the video, I would like to mention that there are no real names being used, and I'll be giving out a trigger warning for the mentions of abuse, misogyny, and NSFW content. We all know there are a lot of creeps and degenerates in the Genshin fanbase, and while the list is long and broad, few of them compare to the likes of a relatively unknown YouTuber by the name of AC3D, formerly known as Ace Legacy. He was originally a regular Genshin and gacha game content creator who interacted with and was heavily involved in the Genshin community. He would make entertaining and funny videos such as Raiden Shogun Cooked and It's a Horror Game, or his videos where he replicated Mario Party in Genshin. Sometimes he would also joke about gooning in his videos, like in this video where he challenges his Twitch chat to not be freaky for 30 minutes. But recently he had rebranded as an animator, specifically an NSFW animator who makes 18 plus animations of various HoYoverse characters. At first, we supported him. He was funny and we expected most of his comments to be satire, but that clearly wasn't the case. Ever since he began animating, his personality changed drastically. He would often make remarks on his stream about how he just wishes he could continue animating his often spending 11 and sometimes 20 plus hours purely working on his NSFW animations. This would not be a problem if he were truly passionate for it, and at first it did seem that way, but in reality he's only doing it for the money and clout. The only reason he started to animate these disgusting animations in the first place was because of his failing YouTube channel, pouring hours of work into editing his videos, specifically the second part of his Genshin Party video. This video would accumulate little to no views or revenue. That's when he decided to turn to his animations. He would talk on stream about how he couldn't stop gooning whenever he's animating, admitting to taking long breaks just to master. In this video, we will talk about what led Ace to this point, how disgusting his actions were, and the lack of protection over minors and his friends in his server. 1 year ago, he had an entirely different community with some really nice people, so it came to us as a surprise when Ace told us that they had raided the server at some point in the past, giving us no further context on the matter. They too had their fair share of experiences with Ace, but they stayed to support him despite how horrible of a person he was being, until he started banning them and stealing their artwork, taking credit for their work and refusing to acknowledge them any further, simply for his own selfish gain. Because of the excessive amount of hours he spends animating, it began to take a toll on his mental health. He began to ban and unmod people over jokes such as calling him Unk, because 90% of his fan base, including myself and almost everyone involved, were minors. Keep this in mind, it will be important later. While this may seem insignificant, it is a prime example of Ace's deteriorating mental state. That is what I would say if Ace was actually sane in the first place. We would often joke about gooning in his chit chat, both to make him happy and to make him laugh. We would say the craziest things we could think of in order to both give him content and make him laugh, but at times it felt more like a friend group than a stream. However, there were times when we would genuinely ask him questions about how he has been, and for the most part, he would tell us. He was really kind to us before he started animating, and for a while, we were happy in the community. That's when he started to change, showing us his true colors. Once he began animating hentai, he spent less and less time streaming. He began to sound overall exhausted and a lot more forceful. We were informed that he was obsessed with Raiden at some point. His community from a year ago was used and abused by Ace. He stole their artwork, ignored them for long periods of time, and only ever contacted them when it was for his benefit. We as his fan base expected this degenerate to only be satire about his love for the Raiden Shogun, but it appears that it's not entirely the case. He truly believed Raiden loved him, despite his mod stating over and over that she was only pixels on a screen. Which leads me to our next point, his denial for help when his friends offered to help him with this strange addiction. And for this part of the video, I'll let one of his old mods, Demi, explain the story.
Hi, I'm Demi, and I was one of Ace's mods from 2023 to 2024, and I'm here to explain what happened during the time that I was a mod with him. At first, everything was fine with Ace. He was a really cool and chill guy. We would VC and play games all the time, and we enjoyed being with him. But it all started to change and go downhill after the release of Fontaine and Genshin Impact. Ace started to change. He started distancing himself from us, and we didn't talk to him as much anymore. And when we did, it was only on stream. He would also start to be incredibly disrespectful to his mod team and others by banning, muting, or demodding members for very small reasons. This would all start when one of Ace's former mods, who I will refer to as Kyle, was forced to ping everyone and say some profanity in the server during a game of Truth or Dare. And after that, Ace would tell Kyle to stop with the pointless pings, and when Kyle told Ace that he was coerced into doing it, Ace would tell him to stop and control himself. Then another mod, who I will refer to as Chris, told Ace, telling other people to control themselves when you have bottom tier self-control is wild. And by this, Chris was talking about how Ace would overreact whenever someone talked negative to Raiden. Like if they said something negative about Raiden, everyone would be disciplined for it. But that comment from Chris seemed to make Ace really upset, and he threw an entire temper tantrum, which affected the whole server. He would permanently demod Chris, remove a bunch of roles, and the admin permissions from every mod. Ace really loved Raiden. He loved her too much, to the point it was just an unhealthy obsession, addiction even, more than just a hyperfixation. Ace had a jar that he would contain full of official cards of Raiden, and well, you can use your imagination of what kind of jar this was. And this wasn't even the worst of what he'd done. Another mod, who I will refer to as Paul, was also revealed later to be a misogynist who worked with HoYoverse, and he had met several YouTubers and voice actors. So, Paul gifted Ace a card that had the corner bit off of it by the Raiden Shogun's VA. And Ace would put this card in a lanyard and wear it on stream, and he would always talk about it. He would always say something about having Raiden Shogun's DNA, which, if you ask me, is kind of weird. So he even made a YouTube short about it, and he would go to extreme lengths for her. And he didn't care if people were getting harmed in the process. Anyways, back to the point. After Ace did all of these sudden modifications, me and the other mods would confront Ace and try to calm him down. When we did, Ace seemed to think that demodding Chris was a normal and a justified response to his joke. Ace would tell us that Chris would piss him off at least once a week, and Chris would often correct some of Ace's blatantly incorrect takes about certain characters being bad or something else Genshin related from time to time. Chris would explain why Ace was wrong, and instead of learning from his mistakes and correcting himself, Ace would get mad at Chris and abuse his power to do things such as demodding, kicking him out, and sometimes even banning him. Chris was really loyal to Ace as well. Once he even bought Ace a $100 Genesis Crystal top-up so Ace could pull more Raiden constellations. But Ace never mentioned this even once. He ignored anything beneficial Chris did and only focused on Chris's faults so he could get a chance to demod him or administer other cruel and unusual punishments. And this was one of those times. Ace rarely ever communicated with us, and we were pretty easy to reach out to as we would hang out in the mod VC in his server all of the time. Ace could have easily had joined and tried to fix things between us, and if he had just done that, the whole situation would have been over pretty quickly and everything could be back to normal. But instead of doing that and being mature, Ace decided to hide and mute every single channel in the Discord server, which just made things even more confusing and hard for us. Ace would tell us not to bother him unless there was a problem, even though Ace was the problem. The only time Ace even talked to us was whenever he needed work done. Ace used to own the Minecraft server called the Genshin SMP, and it had a lot of mods, texture packs, which were Genshin themed. All of these would be made by his mods. Ace had almost no part in creating the SMP, and Kyle would be one of the mods working on the SMP. He would spend almost 300 hours working on the SMP just for Ace to ghost him and ignore him about important updates and questions. We found it difficult to have empathy or understanding for someone who constantly ignored us, and we were starting to drift away from Ace as well. These issues would start to develop over time, and Ace's relationship with his mod team was deteriorating. So my friend, who is also the lead artist in the server, who will be referred to as Ava throughout the video, would try and confront Ace in a mature and level-headed manner. She would try and help Ace fix the relationships he had with his mods, but she failed. Ace wouldn't listen to her and instead blocked her. She would be the first mod that Ace would block. Ace kept mistreating everyone around him. He kept acting immature and abused his power for the smallest reasons, such as making jokes about Raiden. Donald, an active member of the server and good friends with all of the mods, would be timed out for an entire week for simply reacting with a skull emoji to an announcement that Ace made about Raiden. Donald was disrespected and poorly treated by Ace for a long time, even before that. Even though Donald was a good friend. Even though Ace did all of these things, Donald still tried to think the best of Ace. And this would only just keep happening, and Chris and a few other mods would be unmodded again, just because of a random joke about Raiden. Kyle would eventually try and stand up for Chris, but Ace just banned him from the server and the streams. Chris would eventually ask Ace to remod the rest of us who had been unmodded, and Ace responded to him with a random timestamp. All of this would just keep happening, and it was common to see Chris being demoted or kicked from the server. We had all just stopped questioning it, and we would live in fear. Ace had created a dictatorship in his own server. One of our friends, whose identity will be anonymous, would eventually confront Ace. She would tell Ace how Raiden wasn't real and how she did not have feelings, and she would call out Ace about how horribly he was treating his friends just for some pixels. She was giving Ace a wake-up call, but once again Ace didn't listen to her, and he would eventually ban her and block her from the server. Ace would also use people's artwork to train AI models despite their lack of consent, and he has also stolen art from us and claimed it as his own. This will be explained later throughout the video. So, between this and Ace's blatant mistreatment towards us, we decided that we could not take it anymore. We finally wanted to break free from Ace and expose the things that he did in form of a document. The day came when we finally left Ace's server, but before we did, we decided to delete the art/fan art channel, the NSFW, and the mod chat, since these channels would contain our original work and we did not want Ace to access them again. After deleting these channels, we would write exit paragraphs, which was our goodbye to Ace's community. Once Ace logged on, finally, he would purge all of our messages, including the exit paragraphs, without even reading them. As you see in this image, an announcement was made after Ace's mods left. Ace referred to this event as a raid when that wasn't the actual story. He later referred to this as the removal of his personal work and as us abusing our power and trashing his server. He essentially tried to paint us as the bad guys in this situation, and that wasn't even the worst thing that he's done. A few days after we left, Ace posted something on his community page on YouTube. It was the Genshin SMP assets created by my friend Ava. Ace had stolen her art and claimed it as his own, saying that he was trying out pixel art. A good friend of mine, an old mod, would eventually email YouTube and try to get the post taken down. Another friend who is still in the server would ask Ace about the image he made on his community post and the document. As you can see here, Ace admitted to stealing her art as he was just trying to get us angry with this post because we attacked his server and his friends. If Ace had just given us a middle ground to work with, maybe he would have banned us and maybe we could have maintained our friendships with him. But in the end, it was clear that Ace would rather play his non-existent pixelated wife, Raiden, over his close, real friends.
Though some people hate the Honkai style character Mem for their annoying voice and Paimon-like behavior, Ace actually likes Mem a lot, too much even. Ace was truly a creep and he'd goon to a lot of questionable things, one of them being Mem. Ace would say very questionable things about Mem, like wanting to grab Mem by the ears so she couldn't fly away, or wanting to trap Mem in a jar, or just do awful things to Mem in general. And he even started to goon to Mem in her human form, Cyrene, who is canonically supposed to appear as a child, and Ace ended up making an NSFW animation of her and Amita Trail. And on stream, he quite literally flashed us with a sneak peek of that animation, where Cyrene had little to no clothing on.
One, this is a video, but I'm not playing the video. Okay. Alright, there you go.
And a reminder, most of us who were watching stream then were minors, so yeah, he flashed minors. He also has an NSFW model of an adult version of Paimon, and he made a YouTube short about it, where he says it opens so wide and you know what can fit in there, which you probably know what he's referring to. And another time in the NSFW channel, he posted an NSFW animation of the Herta and two of her puppets, doing very questionable things to her. And canonically, Hertz's puppets are supposed to be modeled after what she looked like as a child. And at first glance, you should notice that Hertz's puppet does look like a child. So yeah, very concerning. Mem isn't the only creature he would quote-unquote goon to. Ace would also do so to Pokémon a lot. He seemed to really like the Pokémon Garchomp, and he gave the Pokémon the nickname Goonchomp. He often said that he wanted Goonchomp to do not so appropriate things to other Pokémon. I used to send gifs of Pokémon that I like in the Discord server, such as Alolan Vulpix or Sylveon, and whenever I did that, he would send a gif of Garchomp, which basically means he wants Garchomp to do bad things to the Pokemon that I'm sending. And Ace would tell me things such as how Garchomp's meat is bigger than the size of Vulpix, or Vulpix doesn't stand a chance against Garchomp's 14-inch meat. Ace would tell me this multiple times, and I would always be weirded out. Ace kept telling me something along the lines of how no Pokemon could handle Garchomp's meat, and I remember having a conversation in VC with him. When I joined, he started talking about a gif of Vulpix I sent in a gooner way with some other people in VC, and I immediately got weirded out and sent a skull emoji in VC chat. And he told me what he'd usually tell me. No Pokemon could handle Goonchomp's 14-inch meat, and I started talking about Pokemon that could overpower Garchomp, and Ace gave me explanations on how they could or couldn't. And I mentioned Lunala, and he said that he didn't know much about it and it wasn't goonable. Ace wasn't joking about gooning the Pokemon, he was genuinely attracted to them. And the disturbing part that I noticed was that it was always the small and cute Pokemon that he was most attracted to and wanted to see Garchomp do 18 plus things too. And another disturbing thing that Ace would goon to is monster or monster-like creatures doing 18 plus things to people, as you know with the Siren X Trail animation or Garchomp. Ace once said that on stream that he found an NSFW animation of Mavuika and a Kaholosaur, which is the Hydrosaurian in Genshin, and he admitted to gooning to it. I remember everyone on stream being weirded out by what Ace was saying, and Ace even tried to defend himself by saying something about the Saurian having two dicks, as if it was somehow making the situation better. And he even posted this animation in the NSFW channel in his server, and people still got weirded out about it. When Ace first started expressing his interest in animation, he told us that he wanted to make a Pollux x Castoris animation. And if you don't know who Pollux is, it's Castoris' twin sister as a dragon. And Ace knew that Pollux was her twin sister as a dragon, but he still fantasized about it and wanted to animate it. There was also a time where Ace said he liked how Castoris' sister was disabled. Ace basically had a fetish for a woman being dominated, and he would talk about this with us a lot. He said that he doesn't like vanilla or regular hentai because it's too boring, and he says that he likes it when they fight back, and I don't think that means anything good. Most of the 18 plus ideas that Ace had usually involved women getting dominated. Like one of his ideas was about Maide and Finon dominating Castoris. And the most disturbing part would be how he referred to them as shy little sister and dominating big brother. And he doesn't see a problem with this at all. And a while back, we saw on his Discord profile that he was working on a Raiden X Metatrail split roast animation. We were wondering what a split roast was, so we searched it up. And when we found out what it was, we were horrified. I'm not going to go into detail on what it is because the video could get taken down if I do. But a split roast basically involves three people and one person gets 18 plus things done to them in two ways, which from context you might be able to understand. But again, I'm not going to go into detail, just know it's very disturbing. Another one of Ace's disgusting NSFW ideas involves the Genshin character Inefa. In this idea, Ace describes how he wants Aether to mind control Inefa while she resists him when he's doing something very bad to her without her consent. This was basically the R word, and Ace considered making it. So yeah, Ace was attracted to some seriously questionable things that no one should be attracted to. Fictional characters weren't the only thing that Ace would act weird towards. Remember when I mentioned that 90% of his audience were minors? Well, he would basically promote NSFW content to us, and he would just bring up NSFW to us in general, despite knowing our age, as you know from the time he flashed us on stream and about how he talked about Garchomp with me. Ace didn't really care if minors had access to NSFW unless he was getting in trouble. When Ace made his Twitter account, he said that he didn't care that minors were looking at his Twitter because Twitter had bad moderation or something along the lines of that. So he said that there wasn't a way to stop minors from seeing it, but there were ways. Some of the NSFW creators that Ace follows have minors do not enter or 18 plus only in their bio, and they would also have age restrictions added to their accounts. That was the bare minimum that Ace had to do to not allow minors onto his Twitter. And the only reason Ace didn't let minors into his NSFW channel in his Discord was not to protect them. It was because Discord was stricter with NSFW and he simply didn't want to get in trouble. And at some point in the past, when his old mods were a part of his community, his NSFW channel wasn't even age restricted, and minors could easily access it and look at NSFW. And Ace would just let them in. According to Demi, during that time, a middle schooler had accessed the channel and had posted in it, and he apparently posted a poorly scribbled out picture of his school ID and showed it to the old mods and Ace. And that was when everyone found out that this kid was in middle school, and apparently he was very disliked in the community, and he would rage bait a lot, so the mods wanted to kick him out for it. But Ace kept him in the server and still let him in NSFW, probably because of all the hentai he would provide. When Ace first started to rebrand as an NSFW animator, he wanted ideas for these animations, so he made a channel in his server where we could suggest ideas for his NSFW animations, and that channel wasn't even age restricted. And on top of that, you could still access it even if you didn't have the NSFW role. And since we all wanted to support Ace with his animation career, we gave him ideas, and most of the people writing ideas in that channel were minors, including me. And Ace would often check that channel to delete any unwanted messages in there, so he knew that minors were writing ideas in there. These ideas would be paragraphs long and they would go in depth on what's happening. And Ace liked how detailed and in depth that some of those ideas would be, so Ace encouraged us to write ideas, knowing full well that most of these ideas were from minors. So yeah, he was using minors for NSFW ideas. I also recall this one time when Ace made my friend and former mod, Pure Muskrat, animate a Castory's feet wiggling animation. And he didn't do this for his own enjoyment, he did it for Ace. And I will tell you right now that Muskrat is a minor, and Ace knew that. So Ace made a bet with the Muskrat, and that bet was if Muskrat lost a match in Sternova, he would have to animate an animation of the Honkai Star Rail character Castoris wiggling her feet. And as you can guess, Muskrat lost the Sternova match, and he was now forced to animate feet. Muskrat obviously didn't like it. As you can see in the screenshot, Muskrat says that he wants a break from animating and that he feels like a Sheen worker. But Ace responded with, "Children in the mines don't get breaks. Why should you?" And Muskrat also asked Ace for help with the animation. And during that, Muskrat states that he could see her Puccina while he was in the process of animating. And I think you can figure out what that means. To a normal person, it should be concerning that a minor is seeing something like this while animating. But Ace wasn't concerned by this because he responded to that message with an emoji of Castori's blushing, which means he likes that Castorich's Puccina could be seen. And a little after, Muskrat gave Ace another update on how he had to remove Castoris's head during the process, and Ace would respond with Castoris head, which basically means he wanted to see Castoris doing not so appropriate things with their head. And reminder, this was set to a minor. Muskrat eventually finished his animation, and Ace showed it to me and some other people in VC. I remember Ace saying that he was gonna post it on his NSFW Twitter, but apparently it was too freaky and he didn't like it, so he made Muskrat do all that work just for him to not like it. Other times that included Ace being creepy towards minors included when Ace pinged my friend His Jesus and asked him for hentai suggestions. While he was asking His for hentai suggestions, he even said that he wanted hentai with women being violated by monsters, or when he told me when he wanted to animate Unknown God Tentacle hentai. So Ace knew this and still did and said very questionable things. I would also like to include another piece of information that I'm not too sure of, but I still think it's important. My friend Sukasa was once an NSFW mod on Ace's server. He was a minor, but he never explicitly stated it. And the people in the server who weren't really close with him or didn't know him too well would just assume he was an adult. But Sukasa would often share things that hinted at him being under 18, and Ace was usually there when he would share these things. One time, Sukasa sent an image of his report card, and on this report card, there was information that he forgot to cover, like the name of his school and the year he would graduate. Me and Ace were the only ones who saw this, and Ace deleted that image when he noticed there was personal information on it. And knowing that, it should have been obvious that Tsukasa was a minor, but apparently Ace still thought he was an adult and kept him as an NSFW mod. But Ace does eventually find out that Tsukasa is a minor. A while back, Tsukasa wrote a goodbye message in the server, saying that he was gonna leave for a few weeks to a year, and in the message he revealed something personal that he was going through, which also hinted that he was a minor. And this message will be brought up later in the video again. We were all sad that Tsukasa was leaving, and so was Ace, but Ace didn't think anything else of it and only thought of it as a goodbye. But then someone else would respond to the message saying that they've been through the same thing that Tsukasa had been through, and they kind of figured out that Tsukasa was a minor, and Ace knew that they figured out that Tsukasa was a minor, and I guess that's how Ace figured out as well. And that's when he took Tsukasa's NSFW roles away. But it's always been obvious that Tsukasa was a minor, and knowing everything, I'm surprised that Ace only found out then. What I think is that Ace always knew Tsukasa was a minor, but he only took action to remove his NSFW rules when someone else knew that he was a minor, as it would get Ace in trouble. And since Ace didn't want to get in trouble for making a minor moderate the NSFW channel, he removed the role from Tsukasa. This part is mainly just speculation, and I can't confirm that Ace knew Tsukasa was a minor, but it is really hard to believe that he didn't know his age despite it being pretty obvious. As you know from what Demi said, Ace did steal art and he was a supporter of AI, and in this part I will be elaborating more on it. Every emoji and emote in Ace's Discord server and Twitch streams are either official HoYoverse emojis, things that were requested by members, or they would be commissioned, and we never got to know the person who drew his emojis and emotes. And there would also be times when my friends would create stuff for Ace, and Ace would never give them credit for it. One of my friends, whose identity will be anonymous, asked Ace if he could make something that he drew into an emoji, and he never gave him credit when the emoji was made. And my friend Muskrat would also make the logo for Ace's Genshin Party video, and he has asked Ace on stream to give him credit, but Ace just ignored him whenever he asked for it. And there isn't anything on the Mario Party video's description that mentions Muskrat making the logo. I did a little more digging on this matter, and I went to Ace's Hoyo lab, and I found out that Ace posted pixel art of Venti. He claimed that he made it himself, and he even mentored it into an art contest. And Ace has mentioned that he wasn't good at art. Just look at this other post as an example. It's not exactly the most flattering piece of art, so I clicked on the comments of the post, and just as I suspected, he stole the art. I saw comments of his old mods calling him out and saying that he stole it. At some point in the past, Ace also had a Genshin SMP with his old mods, and Ace basically takes credit for the ideas that his old mods had for the server, and I'll let Demi come back and explain what happened with it.
So, the Genshin SMP was a lore-based Minecraft server that was run by Ace and some of us mods. One of the mods led the project, and I'll refer to him as James. The first season of the SMP did well, and it ended pretty successfully. Season 2 would only get about 100 views per video, which I may add, might be because of how Ace made the entire thing in Season 2 about himself. It was about some random lore fan something about him and Raiden, while Season 1 was more focused on fan lore, Fontaine versus Inazuma battle, which I may add, Ace was on the Inazuma side because of Raiden, obviously, and not everybody, but most people were on the Fontaine side. I was both there for each seasons, and when I played the first season, it was really fun. There were a lot of people we made friends with, and people we still talk to this day. And Season 2 was just some more sick, twisted roleplay fantasy Ace wanted about him and Raiden. So, because of the low Season 2 views, Ace decided to discontinue it, and he gave the ownership of the Genshin SMP to James and Kyle. Ace clearly stated that he would resign all actions from the server and it would be 100% run by them until the server's runtime ended in 5 months. They were free to do anything as long as it was Genshin SMP related. Ace still had ownership of the actual Minecraft server since he bought it, and he chose to maintain sole control of the console, but that would eventually change. James, who is the creator of the Genshin SMP mod pack, eventually received a message from Bisect Hosting offering to sponsor the Genshin SMP mod pack. The mod pack is a separate entity from the Genshin SMP title, and James holds 100% of the ownership of the mod pack. In addition, there's also the Genshin SMP resource pack and the data pack that was created by Kyle, and he holds 100% ownership of both. James took the partnership with Bisect Hosting and successfully migrated the server and the associated files to the new host with Kyle's help. Now, James and Kyle both own the name, console, and server hosting, and all the assets associated with the project. This was well documented and communicated throughout the server. Everyone in the mod team knew or had access to the information about the shift, including Ace, but he never said anything about it or indicated that he objected it. When we reached out to him to console him about the shift, he ignored us and claimed that he was busy with quote-unquote work. When it was time for us to leave the server, we took the project with us, and at this point, the SMP and all of the assets were 100% owned by the members of the mod team. Ace blatantly ignored this when he made his announcement about us. He claimed that he doesn't endorse the Genshin SMP, nor do we have the right to the Genshin SMP and the ideas that he's created for his Minecraft server. However, the Genshin SMP did not belong to Ace anymore. He never trademarked it, and he gave away all the rights to James and Kyle. And the mod pack and the resource pack were all supplied by them as well, and he did not have any right to anything regarding the SMP.
As mentioned, Ace was a supporter of AI, and he used it in wrongful ways. Ace had an AI of Raiden, and he built and trained her voice. He used an online tool and gave it voice lines from Raiden's in-game dialogue and profile. And Raiden's English voice actor, Ann Yatko, is openly against the use of AI, as you can see here in this tweet. Multiple people have reached out to Ace about this, but he just said that she could send him a cease and desist if she cared. So Ace chose to disrespect a real person's boundaries just so he could fawn over his fictional wife. And Yatko wouldn't be the only one whose voice would be used by Ace to train AI. While I was doing some digging, I remembered that Ace had a character AI account and he had made multiple bots on it. In character AI, you can voice call with characters, meaning that Ace may have stolen people's voices. So I went to check out his character AI account, and I was right. On his account, I saw multiple bots of YouTubers, voice actors, and even a few characters. And most of them had an AI trained voice made and trained by Ace himself. Some of these voices include Wisely's voice actor, Joey Zaisha, and Scaramwisher's voice actor, Patrick Pedreza, and both of them have publicly expressed that they don't consent to the use of AI for their voices. Yet Ace still used their voices to train AI, and all of his character AI bots and voices are public, so anyone can use them however they want. Now that you know all this about Ace, I'll explain the events that led to this point. Remember when I said that Ace would ban and unmod people just because they would joke about him being an unk? Well, that's kind of how the situation started. I'll have my friend and former mod Pure Mascot explain how this started.
Hey, I'm Muskrat, and as Arctic said, I'll be explaining how this all began. So there was a member in Ace's server who will be referred to as Seven throughout the video. He occasionally called Ace an unk as a joke, but one day Ace added the word unk as a block term on his server, which Seven then realized and decided to work around it by calling him unk cunt instead. Now Ace did not like this. He was timed out. Seven is what I mean by he was timed out for an entire day, and the reason as to why we think he was timed out is because he called him unk cunt. But anyways, fast forward to the next day, I would just be talking in general chat in Ace's Discord server, and Ace was in a VC with a couple of his friends, and one of them we'll call him Nilu, just as a code name, and everything was just normal. Seven was not timed out anymore. He was able to talk, and I started talking to Ace in general, and I was about to call him unk until I realized that it was a block term, so I used unky as a workaround, similar to how Seven used unk cunt. But calling him unky, he did not seem to like that at all. He ended up taking my mod away on both Twitch and Discord, and he didn't give me a reason why, but I assumed that it was because of me calling him unky. After that happened, I ended up saying, sorry unky, I won't say it again, just to troll him a little bit more, and then I just stopped saying it after that. But I didn't have a chance to redeem myself because I got timed out for 5 minutes. But during those 5 minutes, Ace banned Seven and then modded Nilu. Now, of course, I was extremely confused. I didn't know why they banned Seven. I didn't know why I was unmodded, why Nilu got modded, which, I mean, I guess I can't do. They were friends, but nobody was answering my questions. That's all I had to say for now.
The morning after that incident, I decided to check Ace's server because I always check the server, and I ended up seeing Muskrat demodded, Seven banned, and Nilu modded. And I asked why all that happened because I found it extremely strange. And Tsukasa would also wake up to all this, and we realized that his mod was also gone. Ace didn't even tell him beforehand that he was gonna take his mod away, and I even went on Twitch to see if Tsukasa and Muskrat still had their module there, and they were demodded there too, with no explanation why. We were extremely confused, and we started pinging Ace because we wanted answers. Then, someone who was in VC with Ace the night before said that they knew something about the reason that Seven was banned, and that they would say it, but they didn't know if Ace would like them telling us. But they eventually did somewhat tell us the reason, and they would tell us something something pedo, which Ace did occasionally joke about Seven being Diddy, but Seven has never interacted with minors in the server in that sort of way, and he has never broken any rules in general. So we were still pretty confused till Ace would come online and answer Sukasa's question on why he was demodded. Remember when I said that Sukasa revealed something personal that he was going through earlier? Well, because of this, Sukasa was less active than usual, and Ace demodded him because of it, knowing full well what he was going through. It wasn't like he was fully inactive. He still popped into the Discord and streams every once in a while. Yukasa just needed a little bit of a break because of this, and then after the break, he could have just went back to moderating just as usual. But Ace didn't think about that and decided to permanently demod him and told him to focus on IRL stuff instead of modding, even though that's what he was doing. And after telling Tsukasa his reason on demodding him, Ace ended up deleting all the messages questioning his strange decisions. We were all still so confused, and we had so many questions. And I'd also like to point out something weird that Ace did after demodding Tsukasa and Muskrat. He deleted every message in the mod chat in his server. And the messages in mod chat were mostly just Tsukasa and Muskrat talking, so it was like he was trying to erase them in some sort of way. After Ace's old mods left, he was modless for a little, till Sukasa and Muskrat would come into the picture. They were his first mods after a while, and they were pretty close with Ace too. After that, Ace would mod me and a few other people. So yeah, Ace was basically throwing away his close friends that he knew for a while. And that made me wonder if the reason he gave Sukasa was even the actual reason, or if it was just an excuse to demod him. One day later, me and Sukasa decided to ask one of Ace's close friends, who was a streamer, if he noticed anything strange about Ace. And we told him about the strange demoddings and the banning of Seven. And we eventually got him to help us talk to Ace again, and this time Ace gave us answers. He told us he modded Nilu just because he hung out with them a lot, and they were friends. And before, when I asked Nilu, he said that he hadn't even asked for the module, and Ace just gave it to him. Then Ace would tell us that he demodded Muskrat because he annoyed him, and that he banned Seven just because he didn't like him, and he also annoyed him. And he even called Seven a pedophile while saying that. Ace was being immature and childish, and me and Tsukasa didn't like this one bit, so we called him out for his abuse of power and said it was wrong. But Ace would get annoyed at this, and he didn't listen to us when we told him what he was doing was wrong. He just said he could do anything he wants. He also said something along the lines of not wanting kids as mods and just wanting adult mods, while still keeping me modded, and he knows my age as I have told him how old I was before. After that, Ace tried to hide everything. He said that he didn't want to talk about the situation in general and purged all the messages there. And because of this, I made a group chat with me, Sukasa, and Ace. And I told Ace to talk in there, but Ace didn't listen and he just told me no thanks and left the group chat. That wasn't the only thing he did to try and hide stuff. Earlier that day in mod chat, I asked what happened to all the messages that used to be there, since Ace deleted them, and Ace didn't reply to me till I told him about the message when me and Sukasa were confronting him, and Ace replied to my question with, "Because I felt like it," with an happy Yai Miko emoji. And this was barely an answer, so I asked why he felt like it, and he tells me that he has a low tolerance for bullshit. He responded almost 20 minutes later, by the way. Ace knew what he was doing was wrong and that people wouldn't like what he was doing, so instead of actually talking it through, he hid everything and silenced us when we disagreed with him. After that, Tsukasa would continue to press Ace and call him out for this behavior, and after a little while of that, Ace got annoyed and timed out Tsukasa for 5 minutes. Then my friend, who was a very active member in the server, Bayonetta Enjoyer, came into general to see what was happening, and he had a lot of questions. So he made a group chat with the most active members of Ace's server, including me, Tsukasa, and Muskrat. And we were just processing what was going on with Ace, and we were just talking about the situation and telling everyone about it. We all knew what Ace was doing was wrong, and we knew it wasn't a good idea to support him anymore, so it did seem like the best idea to just leave the server, but it was hard for some of us, including me, because Ace was a good friend to us, and we never really had anything against him before all this. Initially, we were just gonna wait for a little while, then leave the server. A little bit later, Sukasa couldn't access Ace's server, and we tried inviting him back to see if he was banned, but he couldn't join. That's when we realized that he was banned. 3 mods, including me, were banned in this situation, and Tsukasa was the first. He seemed to have gotten on Ace's nerves too much, so he got banned because of it. Ace basically abused his power and banned him because he knew who Ace was and called him out for it. And some of our other friends would be banned for the same reason. After that, we basically just discussed stuff about Ace and just tried to figure out more on what was going on. During this time, Muskrat would also make his server where he asked people questions about Ace and his rebrand, in hopes of getting Ace to notice what people think about him. This whole situation made me remember that Ace had old mods and how they allegedly raided him. So I started to wonder why they raided him. Had Ace done all of this before? There had to be more to this story. So we all decided that we needed to contact the old mods and learn what happened then. With the help of my friend Hiss, we tracked down some of the old mods from the old messages in the server. Remember Ava, Ace's former artist and mod? Well, I would DM her about the situation, and after a little, she responded. And in DMs, I talked to her and told her a little about the situation. After that, she made a group chat with me and some of the other old mods, and my other friends would be added to this group chat too. We all ended up learning what really happened a year ago from the document and what they told us. How Ace would abuse his power to unmod and ban people, how he'd steal their art, and how the mods didn't actually raid him. Everything we thought about Ace was a lie. He was only hiding his true colors until now. After a little, Muscat's Google form would get a few responses, but we still wanted more opinions, so Muscat decided to post the Google form in the general chat on the server, while telling people that Ace was silencing everyone speaking out against him. Another friend who used to be a part of Ace's community would also DM the form to Ace. We also mentioned how Tsukasa was banned. Ace saw the Google form and he saw what was going on in general, so he timed me out and Muskrat. When I got timed out, I would also get a notification from Mod Chat. Ace showed me a list of people who had lost his trust and he told me that I was on it. And this list wasn't an actual list, it was the server's invite logs. We also invited some of our friends who left the server a while back and heard about the drama and all. And we made invites for other reasons as well. I guess Ace saw all the new people coming into the server and he decided to look at the invite logs. On these invite logs, there were invites made by me and my friends. And Ace lost his trust in all of us and timed me out just for an invite. Then, after a little while of keeping me and Muskrat timed out, Ace banned us from the server. And that's how we all ended up getting banned. After banning us, Ace basically tried to erase us. He unfriended me and my friends who spoke out against him on Starl and Genshin, and all our comments on his YouTube channel would be hidden, and he removed all the pinned messages made by us on his server. He wanted all traces of us gone. He purged most of our messages having to do with our friend being banned and his blatant abuse of power, almost as if he wanted to snuff us out before anyone realized anything happened at all. Our remaining friends left the server with a goodbye message, similar to the previous mods. Their messages ended up just like the old mods' messages did, deleted without a trace so Ace could seem like the good guy. After we were all out of the server, he made an announcement to his server, essentially telling everyone our absence meant nothing to him. It was not the fact that he said this that raised our concerns, it was the way he went by saying it, acting like a perpetual child about the entire incident as if he had done absolutely nothing wrong. While this video may come off as entitled or pointless ranting at some points, you need to remember this was our friend, someone we cared about deeply and did so much just to make him happy or laugh, even if some of the things were actually making us uncomfortable. And to his credit, it did seem like we were having fun. After all this happened, me and my friends started to realize that the signs were always there, and we realized how unfairly Ace would treat people. Ace would always have a favoritism aspect on his streams. He would often ignore certain people on stream, and sometimes we would have to use the text-to-speech feature, or TTS, to get him to talk to us. He even admitted to ignoring certain viewers and disliking or liking some more than others. You know Ace's friend Nilu? Well, Ace would show a lot of favoritism to him. Nilu and another member of the server who was friends with Ace once got the NSFW mod role just because one of them asked. Nilu refused to even go into the channel, and from what I heard, the other friend barely went in there. Ace knew this and still gave them the role just because he liked them a little more. Tsukasa was basically the only person moderating the NSFW channel, and the other regular mods either had no access to the channel because of age restrictions or they weren't too active in the server. And as you know, the NSFW mods didn't exactly do their job. So after Tsukasa lost his NSFW mod role, the channel was technically unmoderated. And when I told Ace that he needed more NSFW mods or just actual NSFW mods who could actually do their job and moderate the channel, he just said that he had Nilu as an NSFW mod, despite Nilu not doing his job. There was also another time where Ace made a role called the President CEO Most Gooner NSFW mod. This role had a lot of permissions. I was in VC when Ace made the role, and I vaguely remember what exact permissions the role had, but it did have permissions such as pinging at everyone and making announcements. Nilu would be given this role, and Ace even had Nilu make an announcement with the poll. And this poll would ask people if they wanted to be the pillow on Seat Lolly's chest or the pole she was sitting on. So Nilo was given a lot of power just because Ace liked him. Even though it may seem like Ace and Nilo were good friends, it's not exactly the case. If you actually look at Ace's relationship with them, they don't seem that close. And it seems quite one-sided in a way. Nilo never asked for any of the NSFW roles, and he didn't ask for Maud either. And he made it clear that he didn't like having the NSFW roles or making the announcement. And Ace would also try to make him do stuff like reading our NSFW ideas and rating them, or reading out NSFW ideas in a mommy voice for a YouTube video. And obviously, Nilu wanted to do neither of those things. It's like Ace was just using Nilu for his own enjoyment without even considering what Nilu actually wants. Ace has also let his favorite people get away with things. Remember Paul and how Demi said that he was a misogynist? Well, one of the old mods would tell me how he said stuff about beating women or making them shut up. And apparently the other mods told him that it wasn't right or normal, but Ace would defend him, probably because he liked Paul a lot. Ace seemed to defend and hide some bad actions just because he liked the person who was doing them. One of the members that Ace would behave unfairly towards would be Tsukasa. On one stream, Ace would purposely try and demod him, and apparently Ace wanted to demod Tsukasa because he wanted another female mod. If you don't know why he said this, well, Ace would glaze women a lot and say stuff like men don't deserve to breathe the same air as women, or he would call women superior and say that men needed to be burnt alive. We first thought of it as a joke, and some of us would play along sometimes, but it became apparent that Ace took it seriously. It was just something weird that he started to do. But back to the topic, Ace would flip a coin on Google, and if it landed on heads, Tsukasa would keep his mod. And if it landed on tails, Tsukasa would be demodded. And the coin landed on heads, but Ace seemed to really want to demod Tsukasa, so he kept flipping the coin, but it kept landing on heads. And it seemed to annoy Ace since he didn't like how he couldn't demod Tsukasa. And Tsukasa obviously didn't like how Ace kept trying to demod him for basically no reason at all. Later throughout the stream, Tsukasa would type the ref4 finger emoji into TTS, aka the text-to-speech feature in chat, just to annoy Ace since Ace kept trying to demod him for either no reason or a dumb reason. And Ace would time out Tsukasa because of that. And this wasn't the first time that he was timed out. Ace once said something about Tsukasa's favorite Wuthering Waves character, Changli, being mid or something like that. And Tsukasa would respond to this by saying that Raiden was a 7 out of 10. And Ace would get mad and time him out, even though he did the same thing that Tsukasa did. As you know, Ace is too obsessed with Raiden, and he always timed people out, banned or demodded them, if they even said the slightest negative thing about her. And he was basically a hypocrite because he would often talk negatively about the characters that we liked. And unlike him, we wouldn't get too upset at this nor care. That's not the only thing that Ace would be hypocritical about. As you know, Ace got mad that he kept getting called an unk by Seven. Well, he basically did the same thing. Ace would occasionally call Seven an unk too. One time he even made an unk roll just to give it to Seven. He did the same thing that Seven did to him, yet he got so pressed about being called an unk, and Seven basically didn't care that much. Ace would also provoke Tsukasa with the very mean joke. Ace kept saying that Tsukasa liked watching insect because he mentioned that he found it on a website once. And ever since then, Ace would say that Tsukasa likes watching Insect Hen, and Tsukasa made it pretty clear that he didn't like that joke. But Ace still dragged the joke on for a really long time, and one time he even changed Tsukasa's per server nickname to Insect Lover. And Tsukasa had this nickname for a few days, and he clearly expressed that he didn't like having that name. Ace would even say stuff about Tsukasa liking insects behind his back. Whether it was on stream or in a VC, I try and defend Tsukasa by saying that he only found it once and that he doesn't like watching that. But Ace always told me that he was lying to me and that he did like insect Keep in mind, others would put up with Ace joking about them this way, whether they liked it or not. but Ace would just throw a fit and abuse his power when it happened to him. Ace basically had the emotional intelligence of a toddler, which means that he's extremely immature, as you can see from some of the choices that he made. He bans, demods, and types people out for saying something slightly negative about Raiden. And as you know, he did the same for when people made a harmless joke about him being an unk. If he didn't like any of the jokes being made against him, he could have just said something like, "Hey, I don't like being called an unk. Can you guys stop?" And we would have stopped, and he could have handled it like a mature adult. But instead, he decided to act like a child and abuse his power instead of finding a reasonable way to solve the problem. He's a grown man who's acting like this, but Ace didn't acknowledge that he was being childish and he tried painting us as the childish and immature ones in the situation, simply because we were all under 18. So the remaining members in Ace's server saw us as the childish children who don't know any better. And he was exactly like this with the old mods. Apparently, Ace had contacted Paul after the old mods had raided the server to ask him if he was affiliated with the raid. And in their conversation, Ace mentions how all this happened because children were given the mod role. Most of the old mods were under the age of 18 when they left the server, so he said that children ruined his server and that he was never going to trust children again or have a kid mod. Yet a year later, he would mod me and a few other kids. In both situations, he only used their age as a cover up to paint us as the immature ones. Ace makes friends and builds relationships with people, but he doesn't truly care about the people he's friends with, as you know from all the friendships that he threw away. Tsukasa and Muskrat were basically thrown away and replaced, even though they were there for Ace since the very beginning and extremely loyal to him. They were thrown away over a lighthearted joke, and just because Ace had become friends with Nilu and a few others. Ace didn't see his friendships as something meaningful and long-lasting. He only becomes good friends with people and then dumps them when he's had his fun and when they've given him what he wants. He basically uses them in a way, and as you know, all of us who left the server mean nothing to Ace as of now. As you know from the announcement, we went from being Ace's good friends, joking around with him, playing games, and just being close with him, to just a bunch of unemployed children with no life. Sometimes when you're friends with Ace, you don't mean anything. He'll just throw you away no matter how much he would seem to like you or how loyal you are to him. You could give him $1 million and Ace would still find a way to betray you. And when it's all over, you're the only one who'll be hurt and betrayed. Ace doesn't care one bit about the people he's hurting. He doesn't feel any remorse, and he couldn't even care to salvage the relationships he lost. There's only three things that Ace seems to care about: himself, a bunch of pixels on a screen, and his crippling porn addiction that went so far to the point that he's attracted to the most disgusting things, and he's leaving his friends behind for it. A lot of Ace's issues really stem from his ego. He always thought of himself as better than anyone else, and he often bragged about how he was good at everything in certain games. For an example, he made a few rage bait posts about the Genshin character Skirk, where he says that his Skirk is a top 1% Skirk just because of her crit stats. And when Skirk's leaderboard would come out on Akasha, Ace's Skirk was actually a top 14% Skirk. But Ace refused to accept this, and he would go on to say that his skirt was better than the number one skirt on Akasha's leaderboard. He didn't like it when anyone was better at him at anything, and he couldn't accept the fact that he could be bad at certain things and make mistakes. Ace had a rivalry between another one of us mods who isn't too involved in the situation, but for anonymity purposes, I'll refer to her as Hu Tao. He would always try to be better than Hu Tao at any game, such as Sonic Frontiers. Littell had a higher score than Ace at the game, and Ace would keep trying to beat her score, just to be better than her. He kept saying that he was better than her at Frontiers when it was obvious that she was better. One time during stream, when Ace and Littell would have their usual rivalry between who was better at Sonic Frontiers, I made a poll which asked who was better at Frontiers, Ace or Littell. Littell would get the majority of the votes, while only one person voted for Ace on the poll. He saw this poll and got mad that basically no one voted for him and he still claimed that he was better. Throughout that stream, he would keep losing to a boss in Frontiers because he couldn't get enough rings. And at some point, another one of Ace's streamer friends came on stream to check out what he was doing, and everyone would start saying that Ace kept losing to the boss in Frontiers in Twitch chat, and Ace would delete any messages mentioning it. Ace was so egotistical that he didn't want to acknowledge that sometimes other people can be better at you at certain things and that you're bound to make mistakes. He just lived in this echo chamber that kept telling him that he was good at everything and that he couldn't make any mistakes. This may seem insignificant and it may seem like it doesn't matter much, but it does show how egotistical Ace was on a small scale. Because of this ego, Ace saw himself as higher than anyone else. This mentality made him believe that he could just do whatever he wanted, whether it's using Anyatko's voice to train AI, abusing his power just because people called him an unk, throwing away his close friends, or just so much more. He didn't care that all of this was morally wrong. He just puts himself on a high pedestal and he thinks he could do whatever he wants. When both the old mods and the new mods confronted him and told Ace what he was doing was wrong, he didn't listen to us. Instead of accepting that he was in the wrong and actually talking things through, he deluded himself into thinking he couldn't make any mistakes and that he didn't have a problem, and he refused to change himself for the better. Ace could have just listened to the people around him instead of being egotistical and not changing anything. If he had just done that, then maybe none of this would have happened and all of us would have maintained our relationships with Ace. And he could have gotten help for his multitude of problems. With all that being said, that's basically everything about one of the biggest degenerates in the Genshin fanbase and the drama surrounding him. And now we will show you Ace's community's opinions on him. As mentioned, Muskrat did make a Google form where he asked Ace's community for their opinions about him. And a lot of people did answer, so I'll have Muskrat read out the survey's responses for you. We also asked the members of Ace's community to send voice recordings on their opinions on him. So you'll see that as well.
Opinions are strange things. Everybody has opinions. But some people don't like when other people have distinct opinions from their own. Just like AC3D, previously known as Ace Legacy TTV. I asked people 2 questions about Ace. The first question was, what are your opinions on Ace's rebrand, not Ace himself? The second question was, what are your opinions on Ace himself, not Ace's rebrand, no body shaming, be respectful. These are what people said to these questions. First, I'll start with my own. Question 1. I didn't mind Ace's whole "we're all gooners" shit at first, but now he's taken it too literally. I played along at first, but it's honestly just disgusting. I understand using other methods to get money, but this is just weird. He's aware of the kids in his server, but he still chooses to make his new career choice public, even rebranding his Twitch, YouTube, and advertising his NSFW every chance he gets. Question 2. I respected him at first, laughed at his jokes, and he was the only streamer who I was able to watch full multiple hour-long streams without getting distracted. Ace helped inspire me to pursue my passion of editing and 3D animations. I hate what he became. This next response was made by Bayonetta Enjoyer, also known on Discord as Jazzy Pie. Question 1. He built relationships with over 15 people in here and he's just throwing it away because some people overseas like his animated porn. Question 2. He's abusing his power in his server and banning people who speak out against him. This next response was made by Sukasa. Question 1. I fucking hate it. Plain and simple. I fucking hate how Ace is turning into a artist and is leaving his community behind for fucking gooners. Question 2. I used to like Ace. He was the only streamer I got along with. But recently, I fucking hate him. He unmodded me, unmodded my friend, made excuses, banned my friend for an absolutely dumbass reason. The next person requested to be anonymous. Question 1. It fucking sucks my guy addicted to making gooner shit. I thought he was a chill guy at first, but then he fell too deep in the gooner rabbit hole. This next response was made by Slick Go Get Up. Question 1. I don't know shit about him. Question 2. From what I've heard and observed, low-key, it's disappointing. This next person requested to be anonymous. Question 1. At first, I was fine with it, but he just fell too deep into it, and now I'm not liking it. Question 2. Honestly, I really liked Ace when I found out about him and met him, but now I'm really disappointed in him with everything he's doing. He's he's just pretty mean right now, and he's abusing his power. And honestly, I can't even recognize him anymore. I'm very conflicted and disappointed. This next person requested to be anonymous. I dislike it. He's focusing more on rather than anything. Question 2. Ace was chill at first, but started to focus more on. This next response was submitted by S. Chilius. Question 1. Freak. Question 2. Weirdo. This next response was submitted by Hiss Jesus. Question 1. I wanted to support him at first because he was passionate, but now I have my doubts. I thought he was joking about the gooning stuff, but now I see not all of it was a joke. I need to know more before I come to a conclusion. Question 2. He was cool and funny when I first watched him, but now that I know more, I'm creeped out and feel weird being in the server. This next response was submitted by JXCD21. Question 1. I've noticed, and that's okay. There's a lot of artists in today's world. Don't see how this is much of a big deal. Just let the man do his work. Question 2. Ace is a respectful person. He's never done anything wrong to my knowledge, and he's just a really chill guy. He has helped me get connections with other people and made new friends. Ace is a good person, and he helped me. This next person requested to be anonymous. Question 1. He is heading in a direction that gets him more views for his content, aka NSFW 3D animations. Question 2. I don't really have anything against him. I'm never really around at the times and anything bad is happening, sadly. Those are all the responses I've written down and recorded.
You wanna know what I think about Ace? I personally think Ace's rebrand was a bit awkward and weird in a sense because it was genuinely out of the blue. Like, why ban all your previous mods while animating NSW content? Me personally, I think it sounds a bit odd, but that's just me after all. Honestly, I'm sorry to have said this, but frankly, I've never liked the guy. I simply joined the server after being asked to by Pure Muskrat, and I frankly don't think he'll be able to redeem himself. My friends wish he would have, but I simply know that's never gonna happen.
This next part was said by Omnipotent Shadow. I used to think Ace was a cool Genshin creator, mainly because he was like a balance between normal and gooning. Now he has gotten more addicted to. I understand that Ace is an adult and all, but we shouldn't be showing minors. After seeing all these opinions on Ace, I think it's only fair to share my opinion on him now. I first found out about Ace in March or April last year, and I only watched his videos then. After that, I decided to go onto his streams in November, and that's when I actually became a part of his community. So yeah, I've known about Ace for a long time now. The more I watched Ace and spent time with him, the more I started to like him. Spending time with him in VC and on stream was very fun. There was never a dull moment with him on stream, and in VC he was always nice to me. Being with him made me happy, though there were times where he would just creep me out by the things he would say and do. Yet I always tried to brush them off and tell myself that it's not a big deal and it's just a joke because I wanted to see the best in him, and he was mainly a chill and funny guy at first. And when I became a mod, I was very happy that I became one. I would do my best to maintain the peace in the server and streams. On the Discord, I would check every new message in every one of his channels, calm down any arguments between server members, and report important things to Ace. On stream, I would always arrive early and stay on stream till the very end. I delete messages that were too unhinged, ban any bot that appeared in chat, and if I was late to stream, I would apologize for it. As you can see, I loved my job and supporting Ace. When he first started doing his NSFW rebrand, I tried my best to support him, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of his NSFW rebrand. I would go on to make his Twitter account for the sole purpose of following him, and I'd supply him with NSFW ideas. Which, yes, I shouldn't have been going in the channel in the first place, and I will admit it was wrong of me to do so. But still, I tried my best to support him throughout all of it. This would also help me with my YouTube channel and stream. He was even there for my first ever stream to support me. I saw the way Ace would always keep us entertained throughout stream and how his videos were always entertaining to watch till the very end. I looked up to Ace and I wanted to be like him as a person and as a content creator. Not the gooner part, but everything else. Ace was a role model to me and he was like a big brother to me. I've seen him like that for a while. Until all of these recent events, everything that I've ever believed about Ace was a lie. The person I looked up to, saw as a role model and a big brother figure, was never a person to begin with. It was a mask, and behind that mask was a selfish, immature, and power-abusing creep. And the signs were always there. Now, I despise Ace, and Ace, if you're watching this video, you're lucky. You're insanely lucky to have people who support you, people who care about you a lot, people who always try to see the good in you, even if you're being horrible to them. You had such an amazing community, and I can't believe you threw it all away just like that. You have a serious problem, and I mean serious. Your addiction to pixels went too far. You're attracted to literal animals and so many more weird things. You can't even defend yourself when someone tells you that Mem is an animal. Your addiction went so far to the point that you're basically a zoophile now. And your addiction caused you to lose the people around you as well, and you'll just lose more and more people if this keeps going on. Are you happy with the path you took? And the worst part is, you can't even realize this or even try to change for the better. Everyone makes mistakes and everyone does have problems. Even we've made some decisions which weren't too smart during the situation and while we were still on the server. But the important part is to realize your problems and mistakes and become better, instead of deluding yourself and ignoring them. Look where it's gotten you now. It only does more harm than good. You know what? You're no longer someone I look up to. Instead, I want to be everything that you fail to be. Unlike you, I'm going to be loyal to all my friends and I'll treasure them and keep them close. And my first priority will always be my community, even if I rebrand to something else. Because the people who are loyal to you and support you through everything are truly the most important people in your life. And it's always important to keep them close no matter what. And I really do feel sorry that you could never learn something as simple and important as that. Ace, you've hurt multiple people, old mods, new mods, and so much more. And we'll make sure we're the last people you'll ever hurt. Everything that you've ever done will come back to you, full circle. The internet will know you for who you really are, and no one else will ever have to go through what we went through. Mark my words, Ace, this is the end for all of this. And that marks the end of the video. Please do consider spreading word on Ace so we can stop him once and for all. Whether it's making your own video on him or just telling a friend, spreading awareness is one of the best things you can do right now. We just can't allow Ace to get away with all of this. Thanks for watching.